Hey there, everybody. If you've been following me for at least a little while, it's obvious that I love to play games. Another thing that should be obvious at this point is that I love to collect games. I love the idea of my room being decorated with them and having them on the shelves the same way. If you imagine a library full of books, I love the idea of a library full of games. And I've had people ask me before why collect? Why it can be a costly hobby. You can download emulators that play all of these games, especially the retro games, which is what I really love to play. So why collect? Why go and play and buy probably more games than I'm ever going to play? And it got me thinking about why I do love doing that, because I didn't always used to do that. When I was younger, obviously money was an issue, but I never really considered keeping every game that I had. I was definitely at the very beginning, I was the kid who you bought a bunch of games and you played them and you played them to death, and then you sold them or you traded them off for other games, which now is just, it's tough for me to look at my collection and think of anything that I would not want to have. But it made me think about it, and I figured I'd talk to you guys, see if some of my reasons are the same as some of your reasons. Maybe you've never even thought about it, but I like to think about it every once in a while. The first reason is definitely going to be nostalgia. Nostalgia is, I think, probably what drives most collectors to collect the things that they do. Most people will collect records or something like that, something that will always have a connection to their childhood. And video games definitely have a strong connection to my childhood. I mean, I've been playing since I was about 4. I mean, playing Atari 2600, and we had one in our dining room, and it was hooked up to a little small 13-inch black and white TV, and since then I was hooked. I mean, that was where you found me, was in the dining room playing some Atari. And so, over the years, obviously, I stayed with video games, a few years after, Nintendo came out, and I got a Nintendo, and then I had the Super Nintendo when that came out. And, the connection to my childhood is just blatantly obvious. So it reminds you of a simpler time, as hokey and corny as that sounds. Having video games around reminds you of those days when you didn't have rent or mortgage, or you didn't have to worry about a job, or you didn't have to worry about the bills to the house. And it's nice. It's a little bit of escapism, which is very, very healthy. Don't take it too far. That's the most important thing. There are people who, they're not eating right, or they're not paying their bills because they would rather buy video games because they like video games so much. You still have responsibilities. You still have to manage your life with certain things that come first. But once those things are met, I love the nostalgia aspect of video games. It's the first thing I go to. I have some comic books, and to be honest, they sit in a box. I have tons of figures. I was a big figure collector for a while, and I still have tons of that. But if I had the space to display them, I would. But if I only have space to display one thing, it's always going to be my video games. I love just having them around. It's a great feeling to look at them all, to look at my NES games and my Super Nintendo games especially, and just remember all the good times that I had with that stuff. And it's funny because as I think of that mostly when I look at the games that I really loved, the Super Metroid and Zelda and stuff like that. But then I look at the games that I haven't played, and I think, these games, these are all more stories. And, maybe I didn't get to play them as a kid. Maybe I don't have that nostalgia when I look at, Mappy Land or something like that on NES. But I can still go and play these games, and I know when I play them, I'm going to have that same feeling, that same wondrous sort of, this game was so cool, I can't believe it's X amount of years old. So I love that aspect of it. Another reason I collect is, honestly, I find the act of it very fun. I love the thrill of the hunt. I love going to different places, especially when I go to a brand new place. You know, lately I've been doing a lot of Goodwill stores and, you know, indoor thrift stores and things like that. I love flea market hunting. You know, I love going to these places and, you know, you never know what you're going to find. And there's the idea of, oh, I could find this really rare thing. You know, we've lost some of that because things like the internet, you know, everybody's got their phone, everybody's got eBay, and then they can go through their games in their attic or their basement, and they used to just bring them to the game store or even throw them out. I've literally found games in the trash. But nowadays everybody checks eBay and they everybody thinks they've got a gold mine. So you'll find people with 10 Nintendo games and they say, "Oh, they're $100. It's, you know, 10 bucks a game." But then it's 10 copies of Mario and Duck Hunt. You know, that game, those 10 copies aren't worth $10, let alone $10 a piece. You know, so unfortunately we've kind of lost that, but it is still out there. And that's why I still enjoy collecting. Even when I go to the conventions, you know, when I go to some of the video game conventions, they all know what they have. But going into it, knowing that I'm not going to most likely come out with some massive score as far as, you know, a copy of Hagane for Super Nintendo for $10 because they didn't realize it was rare. I'm not going to come out with that, but I still like that when I go to the large conventions, they're going to have the more rare stuff. You know, they're going to bring it because they know. So when I'm going through flea market hunting and Goodwill hunting, there are certain things that I'm not going to find a copy of Panzer Dragoon Saga. It's possible, but it's most likely not going to happen. Whereas when I go to the big conventions, I'll see 3 copies. And it's, even if I'm not there for that, it's just cool to know that it's around there. You know, it's cool. Like I said, it's the thrill of the hunt and the joy of the find. And even if I don't get it, just the fact that it's there is just super cool to me. For me, I also love the pride aspect of it. They say pride is one of the 7 deadly sins, but let's be realistic here. A good amount of pride is why we take care of ourselves. You know, if we weren't proud of who we were, of the people we became, we would just fall apart. You know, it's pride is an important aspect of the things that we do and giving them value. And one of the things that I like is that I'm proud of my collection. You know, do I have the 5,000 and 6,000 games? No, of course not. Do I even have some of the rarest games out there? Do I have Kyoyu Gektai for the Sega CD? No, definitely not. Like I said, I've got a mortgage. But I look at my collection that I have built, that I've been collecting over the years. And I do have some cool stuff. I mean, just volume alone is cool to me, you know, and I like that I can look at it and say, I did that. You know, it's no different than an athlete who wins a big sporting event and looks back on that as a fond memory of something that he accomplished. You know, and that's sort of what I see here. What I see when I look at all of this, I see years, decades actually of dedication and I see decades to come. So when I look at it, I know that this is not only something that I did, but something that I'm doing and will continue to do. And it's, as long as I take care of it and I have pride in it, it's going to grow. And I'm only going to get more proud of all of this stuff. The last thing I'm going to talk about is actually, I've talked about this before, but this is, I love my fellow geeks. This is a great way to interact with the geek community. You know, like I said, I like to travel to these places and find these games. So in that course, I mean, I've been at the Goodwill store and gotten into conversations with people about video games because we're both standing at the counter and we're both shopping around. I can't tell you how many conversations I've gotten into at flea markets and conventions because that's what we're doing. You know, it is a shared experience and it is a fantastic way to connect with everybody. You know, so it's, I love it. I love being able to You know, a lot of the time as an introvert, and a lot of us are introverts, we have difficulty having these conversations. You know, we have difficulty interacting with each other until you get us going about what we love. And video games is the thing that I love. I mean, you can start a conversation with me about movies. You can start a conversation with me about comic books to some extent. For comic books, I usually like to listen more than I can offer. But for video games, if you start a conversation with me about video games, if I'm wearing a video game t-shirt and you make a comment about it, that is like kickstarting a lawnmower or a scooter or something. Yeah, lawnmowers, you pull the cord. But it's like pulling the cord on a lawnmower and it just goes, you know, and I will go off into a tangent till you, the person who started the conversation, are probably going to get bored. Which, I don't know if that's a good thing, but it's a thing. And that's really it. I mean, those are the biggest reasons. There's probably some other things. Maybe there's specific games that I'm looking for specific reasons. But overall, that's why I love collecting as a whole. So leave a message in the comments. Why do you like collecting? Is there a specific reason? What do you like to collect? Is there, whether it's video games or comics or movies or anything like that? What is it that you like to hunt? What is it that you like to get out to the stores for? Get out to the conventions for? When you go to a large convention that has a little bit of everything, what's the first thing you're looking for? You know, because I go to the Wizard World convention, which sounds like mostly comics, but is actually a lot of different things. And the first thing I'm scoping out when I check out all the tables are the video games. I'm always looking for a game somewhere. I can be in the most random place, and my mission is, do they have any video games here? And what can I grab? I'd like to thank everybody for listening to me sort of ramble on here. If you like what you heard and you thought it was interesting, or if you think somebody else might find it interesting, just be sure to share this video with others. And all right, have a good night.